It is Sunday night. Jeff and I are both back from Las Vegas drafting NFBC main event teams. We will discuss that, plus preview week one, talk some predictions, talk some FAAB. We got a lot to talk about. All coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday night, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Scott Jensen, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. We really appreciate everybody tuning in. We appreciate you could review the podcast if you enjoy listening to us every Sunday night. We do appreciate that. If you please leave some stars, a nice comment, helps out a lot. We appreciate Fantrax for the sponsorship of the podcast too. Jeff, it's been a long time since I've seen you. How is everything in your world?
Hey, stranger. So long no talk. Everything's good. Most everything's good. NFBC was fantastic, fun weekend.
Yes.
Barring a late email from a league that you and I are both in, I'm done. I am done, and it's weird to be done 4 days before the season. Usually I got at least one FOMO draft like the night before the season starts.
I still have a main event. I got a main event tomorrow night. I have my online championship, my CLQ on Tuesday night. So I'm like halfway done. It's a little bit strange that everybody's kind of going into week one mode, and I'm halfway done. But you and I were in Vegas this weekend. Awesome event as always. The only thing I want to say, there's a lot of good things to say, but I just want to say a sincere thanks to all the people who walked up to me and said they enjoyed listening to the podcast, enjoyed listening to both of us. I had a lot of people introduce themselves to me, that sort of thing. I know it's not that I'm intimidating. It's always weird to walk up to somebody you don't know, and it's always I'm bad at that. So I appreciate anybody that walked up to me. I do really appreciate it. It was a really fun time. I love hearing that people listen to the podcast. I love people being engaged and talking about stuff. You know, whether you like it or think I'm right or wrong on people, I do appreciate all the comments. So I just want to say thanks to everybody. There were a number of people that walked up to me this weekend. It was very, very much appreciated. It means a ton.
Absolutely, I had the same experience. You know. I love it when someone says, like, I started playing because I heard you guys talking about it on the podcast. Awesome. I heard you talking about it on the radio. That's awesome. And then they beat me. That's less awesome, but still, taking numbers, 700 people beat me last year. So that's okay. But,
that's the last time we're going to have to reference 700 Club in the podcast. We're moving on and just none of that this year.
Right. Let's do better. All right.
Yeah.
And I felt like I did do better. And I think I looked at your team. You did better as well. Fun weekend. Let's get at it.
Yeah, let's get at it. Let's hit a few news and notes and week one things before we do jump into kind of talking about our drafts this weekend. I think we'll get into that for sure. The top of the list, Jeff, and it was big news at the NFBC all weekend. People trying to figure out where to draft this guy. I think it was like Thursday or Friday. The Shohei Ohtani news came out that there's some stuff going on, some investigations. MLB's investigating. This is a wild situation because maybe he's fine, nothing happens, and people got some bargains out of him. He did not get out of the first round. I think it was only once on the Sunday drafts. There were 8 drafts going on at the same time, so that took us to I think it was 27 drafts. I think he only went out of the top the first round once or twice.
You want to know which league it was, Scott?
It was your league, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Shohei Ohtani dropped to 22nd in my league.
So that was a Fernando Tatis Shohei Ohtani start for somebody.
Yes, it was.
Which 72 hours ago would have sounded like the craziest thing of all time in a draft.
And it is really still kind of crazy. But the best for me, I had no control over that. Wasn't a rogue drafter situation. We'll talk about that later. But no, this was, although there were some real man picks there going on. But still, people passed on them twice. Not just once, but twice. And I would have too, Scott. So you were at pick one. Was that 30-31? You would have taken him? No. I said RotoWire does a roundtable rankings. I set him at 34. Now, push comes to shove. Wow. I might be harder to deal with it. I figure though, too, if he drops all the way to the 30-31 turn, there's other news it's causing that.
We talked about it the night before, and the theory was if he got to 30-31, something bad happened that we knew that was concrete, so he wouldn't have. Right. It was either never going to happen or you were never going to take him at that spot. It was just kind of one of those things that it wasn't going to get there. I had pick 11. I was not taking him in the first round. I was going to take him first round anyway, probably at 11. But the problem with that is I kind of banked on someone taking him before 11 because I had 11 guys I thought were top 11, and I wanted one of those top 11. So I ended up having to take my 12th player, but stuff happens. But
Paul Sporer asked, can I go jump in real quick?
Sure.
Paul Sporer asks, why 34? Why do I have him that low? And is it all related to gambling stuff? Mostly. Now, I was lower than the crowd to begin with on Shohei Ohtani. Coming back from Tommy John surgery, we saw what happened with Bryce Harper the first 2 months of the season. Shohei had his a month sooner than Harper did. That is, one thing there. I'm not impressed by batting practice and early spring training homers alone. I need a little bit more than that. B, I don't really like taking UT in the first round, but 34, it's the gambling stuff. I don't think that the story checks out. I don't see it, the story checking out at all. I don't see
the fact the story has already changed once is very concerning. For me, it was For me, it was strictly the gambling stuff. And what it was at pick 11 where I was at, like why pass up an incredibly awesome player who doesn't have this going on? Like it's not like going to the round 7 where you're taking someone who's not very that good. It's just mostly that I didn't want to do it. There's too many good players at 11 or 20. I wouldn't have done it 20 either. There's too many really good players I love that I just don't even want to deal with this. We're gonna have enough injuries and stuff that goes on that I don't think I want to deal with it. I did an auction the night before. I think he went for 34. I was nowhere near in there. I saw that Justin Mason mentioned almost got him at 33. I think that if he is fine and plays all the season, like that's going to be a great price. I just, for my money and putting up this much money for an entry, I was going to get somebody else and kind of move on, knowing that, maybe I give up a little bit of stats, but the difference between Ohtani and whoever's at pick 20, there's a little bit of stats, but not having to deal with that was easily worth it for me. I think there's a lot of ways to go sideways. Maybe it doesn't go sideways for another couple of years or so, but
right.
The story didn't really check out to me either, and I just didn't want to mess with it.
And here's the thing. I think the story has changed. That alone is bad, but I don't think it passes the smell test. What interpreter can afford to have a $500,000 gambling debt, let alone a $4.5 million gambling debt? What bookie, it's a good businessman, extends that sort of line of credit unless he knows it's being backed by Ohtani?
And even if that first iteration was true, where he just, felt bad for his friend and paid off his debts, that's still illegal.
Right. And as Paul acknowledges that in the chat too. Yeah. But at the same time, I just don't buy we just discovered he stole $4.5 million. I just don't buy that at all. Now, the wheels of justice turn slowly. Sometimes they don't turn at all. He may not face any real discipline, but I think there's a non-zero chance that he does. It may be much later, and it might be 2 years from now. Who knows? It's enough of a doubt that I didn't want to deal with it. And there would have been a spot where I would have dealt with it we get to the point where a player's like, this is worth dealing with it. I just wasn't. It wasn't for me. It wasn't going to be spot for me. Yeah, it wasn't going to be 11 or 20 for me. And then I knew it wasn't going to last longer. He went 12th in my draft, so I passed him once. I didn't have to think about it again. Yeah, maybe if I'm doing like 6 main events, I have the wherewithal to do that. Sure,
yep, for sure.
Maybe then I value take there. Yeah. Scott, he went at 4 and 5 and 7 and 8 a lot this time.
Yep. There was not there was a couple leagues where it was discount, but there were not many where it was not a severe discount at all.
Yeah. Most leagues there weren't except for my league. Which is a hard, they're all hard leagues. I'm not even going to go on how hard my league is, but all NFBC leagues are really hard, just gradation differences there. So that's my take on Ohtani. I don't, the fact that I don't have him anywhere probably emboldens me to take that stance too. So I'm going to just acknowledge that bias. I'm not even biased against him. I love the player.
Yeah, I was gonna say my last thing on this, I hope he plays because he's great for baseball. I hate any kind of I love baseball in general. I hate any sort of negative PR story, but especially considering it's got the biggest name in the game, the biggest face in the game, the highest paid player in the game, the most internationally well-known player in the game. He was dead last in the list of people MLB wanted to be in any sort of scandal-related activity, dead last. Yeah, and that furthers the argument that they'll sweep it under the rug. Yep. That said, nobody is absolutely untouchable. I think I've also learned that too. Yeah. So let's get to some baseball-related news real quick. Jackson Holliday, the night before the main event, got sent down to the minors by the Baltimore Orioles. Do you have any sort of feel? Obviously, you don't know, but do you have any sort of feel how long you think this will be? He went fairly a fairly decent price in my draft. The person who took him, it was round 15. Person took him, thought it would be 3 or 4 weeks. What did you have any sort of feel? Obviously, depends on if anybody else gets hurt, how other guys are playing, how someone like Jordan Westburg is playing, that sort of thing. But how do you think the Orioles keep him down? If you had to guess,
judging by the quotes, not very long.
Yeah.
A lot of the talk was, he needs to face left-handers more. He's learning a new position, second base. It wasn't like, he's way, and they said, they even were saying he's really close, that sort of thing. Oh my God, by the way, I'm sorry. I just saw Texas A&M have a wild 3-pointer to tie up a game against Houston.
Why is my TV on the Yale game? What am I doing here, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't know. You thought it was over. They're going to overtime. Incredible shot. Wild shot. A difficult, inbounds pass. Surrender cobras everywhere from among the Houston fans. It's insane. Sorry. I had to kind of interrupt that, but all right. Jackson Holliday. We are talking Jackson Holliday here. Here's the thing. I have some exposure to Holliday already. I don't want any more because of that news. Otherwise, if he had made the team, I would have been happy to have more of it to him because it could be 2 months. I don't think this is a service time thing. I really don't think it is. They've shown some good faith with some other players lately. B, Peter Angelos passed away during the draft on Saturday.
Yep.
Transfer of ownership is happening. The full transfer of ownership is happening here. So I know it's impartial until Angelos passed away. I don't think that's really the consideration here. I just think they want it to be sure. I mean, he's 20 years old. He struck out a ton in spring training. I think it's still possible that there's some room to improve. He'll be there soon, though. I think if I'd gotten a real discount on him, of course, if I gotten the around 20 discount, sure, but you weren't getting it.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it's going to be pretty short too. I mean, the guy is 20. This is not someone that maybe you can argue that a little bit of seasoning probably makes a little sense. They are very deep. The Orioles are really good. I think he'll be up. I'd probably go a May 5th, May 10th, somewhere in there sort of thing if I had to guess. But on the flip side of business prospects, name's Max Meyer. A little bit before we started drafting, made the Marlins. Sounds like he'll be in the rotation. How much does that affect how you felt about drafting Max Meyer?
It's a bonus, but it's also could be short term too, only because they have Cabrera who could come back. They've got
Braxton Garrett also.
Yep, Yuri Perez also.
Yep.
That's also a lot of guys that count on coming back. I probably should have been more in on him. I don't have Max Meyer anywhere. Maybe I should. Tell me more.
I mean, I was kind of the same way. I moved him up once he made the team, and that's one of those things official. I kind of thought it was gonna be the point once they had all the injuries. I kind of figured he would make it, but I mean, it's a big prospect. I mean, he had 28% strikeout rate in the minors last year. Did he miss all of last year with an injury?
Pretty much, yeah. By the way, Holliday and Meyer went back to back in the 19th round in my main. I thought that was
19th is late for Holliday.
Yeah, it is. I thought it was earlier than that, but I thought wrong.
I think he was. I'm looking now because I know who drafted him. I think he was 16th in our league, and Max Meyer was definitely lower than that. I just worry about coming back from injury control more than anything. Or the guy that already went 20th in our league. I was in, but sort of in. Clearly not in enough. If he went in the 20th round. I was just getting to the point where I was going to take him after the break if he went, and then someone took him.
Max Meyer pitched 2 major league games in 2022 and 12 minor league games in 2022, and since then he's been out.
Yeah, I don't love a young guy like that coming back with 0 innings. 1, control, and 2. I wonder how much the team will really baby him.
Yeah, it is the Marlins. They have a history of promoting when a player is ready. That's a good thing. They also have a history of babying, as they did with Yuri Perez.
Yep, I think that funny enough, Sixto Sanchez looks pretty good in the bullpen right now. 9 scoreless innings so far in the minors.
Yeah, he looks great. Another stupid hard projection to make, by the way.
Yeah, he could end up being kind of high leverage 7th, 8th inning guy for them pretty quick though.
Yeah,
the stuff is there for sure, and they have a lefty closer and a lefty setup guy. That's a pretty nice spot for a righty to come in to get some leverage opportunities.
Yep. And you're down on Tanner Scott. You mentioned that Tanner Scott has the high walk history. He's having a terrible spring. I have an Andrew Nardi share for, but
he's having a bad spring too, right?
He is. That's the only problem. So it very well could be Sixto Sanchez that gets the job instead of Tanner Scott. So Sanchez is very interesting. Also, though, a stupid hard projection. Do you think that Max Meyer is a tough projection? Wait till you get a load of Sixto Sanchez. If you're looking for any sort of past data here, Sixto Sanchez has had through one inning. That's one last year. Last innings before that were 2020, where he pitched in 7 games and 39 innings. So 40 total innings since 2020.
Yeah. And I mean, he looked fun and good when he was pitching, but yeah, that's a hard one to figure out. I mentioned Nardi, and Nardi's having a rough spring. I guess I meant that from a walk perspective. He's walking 20% of the guys, but has given up 0 runs still somehow on the season. 10% strikeout rate, 23% walk rate, and a 6 2/3.
Yeah, that should be opposite if to even be 10% strikeout rate is that's bad.
Granted, smallest of samples, but a 105 BABIP and 100% strand rate tends to help the ERA a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It does.
A couple of minor injury notes before we move on to some other stuff here. Nolan Jones came out during the draft that he fouled the ball off his knee. It sounds like it was pretty minor. There was some reports that it was more serious right away, but he sounds like he's going to be fine for opening day. He checked out pretty well there.
Those were the Jamal Charles carted off comments there. No, he got a ride in a golf cart. You want a ride? Sure. Jamal Charles got carted off. Yeah. That's Nolan Jones.
Sonny Gray for the Cardinals, starting the year on the IL, but he's making a minor league start on Thursday. It seems like he's pretty close, Jeff. I discounted him a teeny bit, but I would think like maybe third week of the year he's making a start for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think so. The only thing that's negative is he's had hamstring problems before. That's the only reason why I'm a little wary of Sonny Gray, but I mean, I love the landing spot. We just know there's durability issues with Sonny Gray. There always have been.
Yeah, I think that's quite fair. Lastly, in the injury notes, I'm just hitting major guys here. Corey Seager may get some at-bats next week in exhibition games. They play, I think, Monday and Tuesday, and then obviously off Wednesday before opening day. But it sounds like Seager is pretty darn close, maybe not fully ready for opening day, but I think it's going to be pretty short after, if anything.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You didn't get Seager. He was close to you. You got 3 hitters though to start, didn't you?
I did get 3 hitters to start, and there were, weirdly enough, there were like 4 guys that I liked that I thought were going to be gone, and all 4 were available to me at the pick. Like I didn't think any of the 4 would make it, and all 4 made it. It was very strange.
Well, and we'll talk about our draft shortly here, but the consequence of pitchers getting pushed up is all these good hitters slipped in every league. Vlad Guerrero slipped to 44 in our league.
46 in mine.
Yeah, it's insane, crazy ball. So. But you know what? Hey, for everything that comes up, something else must go down. Guerrero, Seager 43, Guerrero 44, Altuve 45, Adolis Garcia 46. So and Arozarena 50. No, 49. 49. Math is hard.
And that's crazy because Arozarena and Garcia are both in the 50s in mine.
Yep. So. And then it's Yellow Brick Road again after that. It's even more Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah. Before we get into our teams, let's talk some FAAB. There was FAAB this week, but first, note from our sponsors at Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Are you coming from another service? Fantrax makes that easy as well. Fantrax can import any of your current leagues and customize as needed. Fantrax offers the most in-depth player pool in the industry, including all minor league players. Do you need a customizable commission service for your fantasy league? Well, Fantrax can do that. They offer more customization than any other platform. You can change waivers, your scoring categories, your scoring system, head-to-head, scheduling, all that kind of stuff. Fantrax offers custom solutions for all that and a lot more, and it's all free. Sign up for free today and be entered to win an official MLB signed jersey by Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Simply go to fantrax.com/RotoWire. Sign up today. That's fantrax.com/RotoWire. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. Jeff, real quick, let's talk some FAAB. There was a lot of 12-team RotoWire online championship teams that drafted in February. So obviously, many things in the closer landscape, especially, has changed since then. There were some spots that people were picking guys up. Even some of the early main events, they were about a little over a week ago. There was some guys available there.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is the one you and I talked about pretty extensively, and I believe you drafted Daniel Hudson with the with the NFBC. It's I call it a cheat game. Some people call it a free look, but the 2 games in Korea that happened last week, they were regular season games. You can decide whether to use those games on Thursday when you set your week 1 lineup, and then they get wrapped into there. So Daniel Hudson obviously got a win for the Dodgers in the first game, so essentially a free win. You only need about 90 wins in a season anyway, so one matters. I know you drafted him. Would you like pick him up in 12 teamers? How'd you kind of deal with the Daniel Hudson free week 1 win?
Yes, I did. I have no shame, Scott. I picked up.
Nor should you when it comes to wins, saves, or steals.
Correct. And this is an NFBC only play. I just want to make that clear. That's the only place you can really do. You can really do this is with the free look. It's a cheesy play, but as you alluded to, you can only every win matters. You basically need, if you want to get the 80th percentile on wins, you need to average 3.5 wins per week. That includes this first week where we only have 4 days.
Yep.
And it's in the main event. I waited on pitching. We'll get to that here. Chances are I'm not going to have as many starters going that first week. So even harder. So I picked up Daniel Hudson in the first beat Jeff Erickson, which is the RotoWire Online Championship, in Yogurt, aka TGFBI, and in Scarf, part of the Earth Network of drafts.
Multiple people told me this weekend how much they enjoy the way you say Scarf.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No one has told me that. So they don't want to create a monster, apparently. And I don't blame them, to be honest with you there. In one league, I dropped Paul Skeens to get him. That was a tough look, but I don't think he's coming up soon, especially.
That's a 12-teamer?
It is. It's a 15-teamer, actually.
Okay.
Another one, I had an Orion Kirkering to drop. That was an easy drop. It was Scarf where I dropped Skeens. And then in the 12-teamer, I also dropped. I also picked up Hudson there, so I picked him up in 3 other leagues in addition to the one I drafted. And I also dropped Skeens there too. Yikes! I like Skeens a lot too. No, I lied. I only dropped Skeens in the 12. That's where I dropped Skeens.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I would have thought you held him in a 15.
Yeah, I like Skeens a lot. Although I will say, the fact that Jared Jones looks like he's going to make the team works against keeping Skeens, because that's 2 guys. That's twice they have to keep him down. Or 2 guys have to call up. Now, granted, that can change pretty quickly. They can just say, "Hey, he's ready," but then the man's pitched 6 innings in professional ball. It might take a while.
Yeah, stretching him out take a while. I think you're going to see a little bit of babying there. The only way that might change, and I think it might be possible, I think Pittsburgh might be competitive pretty early on. If they are, maybe they ramp that up a little. Like if it matters where, they're a division that's pretty gettable, I think is a fair thing to say. I think that, I know our Reds are in the division, so it may be insulting there, but I think it's a division that there's nobody like, the Dodgers or, the Braves or Phillies or someone that might run away with something. It's a pretty gettable division. If they're in the mix, I think that might ramp up his timeline a little bit.
Yeah, it might. If he really is the next Strasburg, it'll ramp it up. That's for sure. But yeah, I just think and by the way, I love Jared Jones. Paul Sporer mentions he loves him.
So that was that. Jared Jones is one of the guys in my FAAB look here, so might as well do them all at the same time.
Sure.
He made the Pirates, going to be one of their starters. Was he available in your 12 teamers? How did that kind of work
out? Yeah, good question. I think he was in a couple of them. He wasn't available. I did one Wednesday night last week before the night, so he wasn't available there. And did you do an early one? Not early, but earlier.
Not February though.
No. Okay. He was available in that one. He actually was pretty cheap. I only picked up one guy in that one there. It was only the Hudson play. I was less aggressive on some of the others that we'll talk about there. I don't even think Gavin Stone has been a very popular guy in my leagues. I don't think he's on our outline. We should talk about him at some point, but
moving up too.
Yeah.
He was pretty highly rostered in the 15 teamers. I didn't put him on ours, but yeah, probably in the 12 teamers, he was an ad too. But go back to Jared Jones. I mean, he was really good last year in AAA, 28% strikeout rate. The walks are a little bit high, almost 10% walk rate, but swing strike rate is 15.1%. The stuff is clearly there with Jared Jones.
It is. And hey,
if someone asked in the chat, what would you spend on a 12-team NL only for someone like Jared Jones? Do you play in some only leagues? You're probably a better gauge for that.
I only have one NL only league.
Got to be pretty high though, right? I mean, a guy that is high upside and has a job at the moment.
Yeah. You get them all year.
I'd go. I'm going like
20%.
I was going to say 20. I was going to say 25. So we're in the same ballpark-ish.
Yeah, and it's tough to take a young starter for that much when you got the whole season still to bid on.
I just figured only leagues, there might not be all that much that comes up during the year.
Yeah, That is right. There might not be because it's an only, but also means that you're gonna. I think it depends on also how granular your league is. If it's $100 budget, I'm gonna be a little less aggressive. If it's $1,000 budget and you can do like instead of 20 out of 100, I'd rather do 200 out of 1,000. If you know what I'm saying, because you can get a lot more $1 cheapos later.
Too much math for me, Jeff.
It's the same math, but it's just more granular. You can do decimals.
Of
it's
course.
Okay. You can know decimals. You did that in what, 4th grade? 5th? 3rd?
Probably. I don't know. I don't think my daughter's doing it yet. She's in 2nd. I don't think they've done decimals yet. So we're not 2nd.
Okay.
There were a slew of closers that have made themselves available over these last couple of weeks. So, there's a couple of these guys available in early main events. A lot of these guys available in 12 teamers. Michael Kopech in Chicago. I wouldn't call him a closer, but he moved from a starter to a reliever. They don't really have a guy in Chicago, so he became very interesting. Griffin Jax / Brock Stewart in Minnesota with the Yohan Duran injury news. I think we guess Duran's probably out about the first month of the season. So I think you and I both love Brock Stewart, but I think we both like Griffin Jax too. And I think that he's probably the guy that gets the first save I had to guess. And then the Milwaukee situation. Somebody asked in the chat about that too. We've got Trevor McGill, Joel Payamps, and Abner Uribe is the other guy who's kind of the fireballer, younger guy, but it seems like maybe they want to bring him along slower. Did you have a preference between any of these situations? What did you do on them in drafts? What did you do on them in FAAB? Because it's pretty early, but we've had like I feel like we've had more closer madness than we did for a chunk of last year.
Yeah, and you could throw in Yimi Garcia or somebody else in Toronto too while we're at it.
Jeff, we're thinking only good thoughts for Jordan Romano at this point.
I know we are. We're together forever.
Yeah.
But he still might be a week or two, and But answer your question. I prefer Griffin Jax the most of all these guys.
That was who I had on top in my bids
because I think he's the best pitcher of the group. Now, sometimes Minnesota in the past has gone multiple guys closing. It took a while for Duran to be the sole closer last year. He was discounted because of that last year. So, it follows that Jax can get the same sort of treatment while Duran is out. The flip side is there's fewer real good options to close. I mean, Stewart's there. Topa, who they traded for, is hurt. So that's one less option. They don't have who's the guy they traded for from Baltimore at the trade deadline in 2022. He's gone. I
know who you're talking. I know who you're talking
how
about.
Quickly it changes, man. I'm so bad about that, but that just shows how quickly the closers can burn.
I was thinking of the veteran guy that got saves early.
Jorge Lopez. Jorge Lopez. That's it.
I was thinking of, wasn't it Suarez that was the other guy that had was the older veteran guy that got saves early on for Baltimore a couple years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think you drafted him.
Probably. Thanks, Scott.
He was good for a while.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because I think that Jax is the best pitcher of that group, but I think that Kopech is the guy that could conceivably take the job and run with it because Jax can't really do that unless Duran has a setback. Because I think at some point, whenever Duran comes back, it's back to his job. Kopech's fascinating. I mean, he's throwing 100 miles an hour in spring. They decided it wasn't working as a starter. He was terrible as a starter last year. ERA was 5.5. The whip was 1.6. He walked to the house. But he's someone that, if he figures out as a reliever, could be really interesting. I mean, he relieved a lot in 2021. The walk rate was much lower as a reliever. The strikeout rate was much higher. He's the one guy in this list that I could see taking the job, running with it, and being a closer all year long. But we don't even know if he has a closer to start. So it's a tough kind of in between there where I think Jax gets the first save and probably gets the majority of the saves the first month. But I drafted Kopech. I think it's a really good gamble, but one that I admit can end with 0 saves also.
Yeah, entirely true. Now, I saw in my draft, Kopech went in the 21st round. Jordan Leisure Suit went in the 29th round. John Brebbia went in the 30th round. Brebbia was the presumptive guy going into spring training, as much as one could presume anything about the White Sox. It was pretty clear as mud to begin with.
That was before Kopech went to the bullpen too. But I mean,
and then Prelander Baroa sorry to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Prelander Baroa also is part of the picture, but he's hurt. So I kind of just crossed him out for now. I don't need to, add him currently. I can add him when he gets healthy. So again, White Sox bullpen options, Kopech. I prefer. I don't know a whole lot about Leisure or Brebbia is a decent enough pitcher. I think and he was dealing with a calf. And then I think Burrow is fourth on that list for me.
Yeah, and Leisure's just, one of those guys, a ton of strikeouts. It was like 39%. I forgot to look, but I think it was like 39% in Double-A last year. And then, but the strikeout or the walk rate's double digits. I think he just throws gas, a bunch of ground balls, but you just don't know fully where the ball's going. So it's, I think he's interesting, but I think he's more down the road a little bit. Whereas I think, I think Kopech, you let him close for 3 months, you get some trade value out of him too. I mean, the White Sox are not contending this year. If you could build him up and get some trade value at the deadline, that would be pretty massive.
Yeah, it could be. And who knows? Maybe they'll finally figure out this is where he belongs too, and he could be a dominant guy. Yeah,
there's a long list of guys who didn't fully work as starters, and they went to close and did really, really well. And I think that I'm hoping for that with Kopech.
Yeah. Yep. I can see that there.
What about Milwaukee? Devin Williams, we talked about it either last week or before, is out for 3 months of the season. So there's this kind of glut of guys in Milwaukee. Do you have a preference? Do you have a pecking order? Was there anybody in the 12 teamers that you found yourself, if you had to rank them, who were you trying to grab?
Well, it was Payamps initially. I haven't really, I kind of quelled my interest because he's been pretty awful this spring. But so is Uribe, for that matter. I think both could do it. And the fact is, they kind of, the Milwaukee Brewers manager, Pat Murphy, says we're passing around the fireman's hat. Okay, folksy. But you know what? I think that kind of just like cooled my interest a little bit, but maybe that's wrong because Devin Williams could be out for a while.
Yep.
Someone
is out for a while.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could be out all season for all we know. Is more what I'm getting at here. Devin Williams went undrafted in my main. That's pretty wild, considering he was the first closer off the board just 2 weeks ago. To go to that difference there, but you could be getting a guy that's a closer all season or at least half a season, even though he hasn't been minted as such right now. It's a tough call. Payamps goes usually first and he won the 21st round as well in my main. Uribe in the 24th. McGill, you got to make sure it's Trevor, not Tyler or Jimmy.
They both went in the same round in my draft. It was kind of funny.
Really? Tyler went in the 22nd and Trevor in the 30th in mine by the same team though. So he's got the hammer lock on McGill's.
Dual McGill's. You get to talk about Northwestern sometimes. Pat Murphy used to be the head baseball coach at my college, Jeff. The Claremont Mudscripts Stags. He was the coach back in the 80s.
No way. That's wild. That's wild.
Pretty wild. So now we have Pat Murphy, and across the street, our rival school, Pomona Pitzer, was where Greg Popovich had his first basketball coaching job.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So we don't produce many athletes, but apparently coaches come out pretty well. I was kind of just out on this whole situation. The fireman hat quote. If Payamps had lasted a little bit longer in my league, I probably would have drafted him. But I didn't really have a great feel. I would have taken any of them super late, but they just all kind of went. Like Payamps went the 18th round in mine. I was not doing it there.
All right. 21st round's actually pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And someone's going to get saves there. I just, I think that maybe it mixes around, and I just, there were other spots that, I was just drafting at that point. I just didn't really get around to it because I just didn't know.
Let me give you a follow-up question.
Please do.
Would you get Payamps and Uribe, Payamps and McGill? Would you consider that, considering you might be getting a full season closer?
You could. I don't love doing that just because you've got to, you've got to try and time them. But I guess when you do it, you hope one of them kind of takes the job.
Right. And the cost is low enough at that point. It's not like you're getting like a 10th and a 20th.
I don't like doing it on I don't like doing like the 18th round on my closer because I'd rather do it on someone else's closer and hope to get two closers out of it rather than locking in one. And if you do it in the 18th round, you got to hold the guy. Like you just don't want to do that. But you're right. If I could get, Payamps 20 and then, someone else, one of those other guys in the 27th. Yeah, I think it probably maps out. You could probably work that and, you give it 3 weeks and see who's getting the saves.
Yeah. By the way, Spore brings it up a point about Devin Williams. Total waste of a pick unless you're doing it to drop him and slip him back in on the cheap without people realizing he's eligible. So in my league, he won't be eligible.
Because he was not drafted at all.
Correct.
But isn't he? He's a major leaguer, so isn't he already eligible?
I thought it
I
was.
thought that was only guys that were in the minors or didn't play.
You might be right about that.
You could probably look if you look at your draft.
Paul's full of it. And sorry, Paul, tough break, but
But no, with a minor leaguer, that's it's interesting because you can do that. I've done that before. With if the A's had a stud prospect and I kind of had to feel like I would know before someone else picked him up, I could see drafting him, dropping in, and maybe trying to time it there. It's a good question. I'll as you guys are talking, I'll look at the rules, but I thought it was only minor leaguers, but maybe it's anybody that didn't play.
Yeah, as you guys are talking, it's just me and you, dude. But I'll keep talking for a little bit there while you're looking up. I'll vamp for a second while you're
doing it. I won't be able to find the rules probably that fast anyway.
Minor leaguers, definitely you can't do it. You can draft and cut and then try to sneak it in.
Yeah.
And yes, I've seen that as a tactic, but then you have to compete with everybody for them, and then meanwhile you've lost your player. So I think
it looks like players on the MLB disabled list are eligibly picked up during the FAAB bidding process once they are officially active on an MLB active roster. So yeah, I think Devin Williams will be able to pick up every week.
So you don't need to even draft them then.
You don't need to even draft them. Yeah, I believe it's just guys who have not been on the minor league. Yeah, I think it's just minor league guys. If I'm reading the rules correctly here.
Yeah. So you're basically trying to. You're sacrificing one of your picks for the ability to fab someone later. If you're doing it with a prospect.
In a prospect, you could do it if you have a feel that maybe you're going to have you're going to follow it closely. Paul mentioned, James Wood, Dylan Cruz. Like, I think that you could certainly do that. But you also run the risk of someone else in your league grabbing him before you or grabbing him a week before you want to. So it's a tricky little strategy if you think you maybe follow prospects closer or can figure it out. But I don't really do it very often. I've thought about it, especially with A's prospects, but Jeff, the A's don't have any good prospects usually, so I don't have to worry about it too much.
They kind of have some.
There would have been a real gem if I played the game with Tyler Soderstrom and aced everybody out.
Zach Geloff would have worked for you, though. So
was he that much of a prospect? I don't know if anyone thought about it.
No, he wasn't in that class, but he was certainly a valuable pickup last year. That's
certainly worked out. Real quick, a couple extra guys before we get to our teams. Luis Heel, Yankees starter, got the fifth job as we were driving home in the car. I think he got officially named as the fifth job, available in some leagues. So was Jackson Merrill, who made the Padres and played a couple or did not start either game in Korea, which was kind of odd. They made the team and didn't start. He did start. I was thinking of Graham Pauley that didn't start. Sorry. So Merrill played. Luis Heel got named the fifth starter. Either of those guys interest you in a 12-teamer as a pickup?
Sure. Merrill especially. I don't think he's of the quality of, I think there's a risk of elevating him to the Holliday, Churio, Langford trio, but he's at least as valuable as Colt Keith to me, and probably more. The fact is you get a shortstop that's now going to be eligible in the outfield pretty quickly. Very fast, hit the, went 0 for in the season opener, but hit the ball really hard. I could see him being of value. So and Heel, I'm also interested too. Although I did use my 30th round pick, the Mr. Irrelevant, on a player that subsequently got cut, in Will Warren, just under the tier. And I even knew that Warren was the underdog to win that job. I just wanted more upside than the pitchers that were available to me at the time.
Yeah, so I like Merrill. If you mentioned something like Colt Keith, I like Merrill more. I just think that I love the lack of strikeouts last year, both across high A and double A. Strikeout under 30% of the time. Someone I really like. I mean, he was 15 last year in about 100 and doing the math real quick, 114 games. I think he's intriguing. Going to hit ninth, going to hit down the order a little bit. But he's a really good outfielder. I think that I think they want him to stick. The quotes from Tatis and Manny Machado in spring about him made me think he was going to make the team initially, but it makes me think like they're going to stick with him. These guys really like him, really think he's ready now, and I think he's got a pretty decent leash for a while. Yeah,
I don't think you call him up, take him with you to Korea unless you planned on playing him. And planned on using him, for giving him a bit of a leash too while we're at it.
Agreed. So let's jump into talking about our main event teams. But first, a note from our sponsors at Rival Fantasy. It's officially fantasy baseball season. It's time for MLB Best Ball on Rival Fantasy. That's right. Rival Fantasy now has Best Ball. Full season lobbies are live now until opening day with both fast and slow drafts. 3 more days until opening day. Then weekly and daily drafts will be available from opening day through the end of the World Series. Best Ball is all the fun of a draft without the in-season management. Enter a league, draft your squad, and the app does all the rest. No need to set your lineup or make waiver moves. The highest scores at the end of the regular season will be the winners. Invite your friends to start drafting for the 2024 fantasy baseball season today. Sign up at joinrival.com/RotoWire for a $200 deposit match and $25 in free entries. Welcome to the future of fantasy sports. Welcome to Rival Fantasy. Jeff, let's just jump into the main event reviews here. We're going to talk about we'll talk about your team first. You were drafting from the 1-1. Lucky you hit the KDS lottery this year in a year where everybody wanted to hit the KDS lottery too. A lot of years like I'm kind of like, I could be fine with any of the top 4 picks. This was a year where Ronald Acuna definitely separated himself. There were some Spencer Strider folks out there. I know that Matthew Davis, Matty Wood, I saw on Twitter tonight, was the first person to take Strider at the 1-1 in the main event. I think it had been 27 main events without anybody taking anybody but Acuna. But now Acuna will be like 1.05 in ADP instead of 1.00. Talk to me about that pick. Like, how long did you think about not taking Acuna? Or was it pretty much locked in for you?
So I gave it some considerable thought. Because I think there's 2 overarching themes of this weekend before our drafts. 1, what to do with Ohtani, which we've went into in great length. Yep. And 2, the just mad push of pitching, not just starting pitching, but also closers. And how are you going to get how are you going to get an ace? Or do you have to get an ace? Is the follow-up question of that. And ultimately I decided, no, I don't. But, sitting at 30, 31, you get locked out of that top tier 1 and 2 of starting pitcher. Sitting at 60, 61, you also can get locked out, which, spoiler alert, I did get locked out, and that's okay. Or at least I locked myself out, depending on how you kind of grade certain teams and all that. So I gave it a while. I gave it some thought. I really thought about, okay, maybe I should go Strider because of the way that way I don't have to take anything later on. I can get whatever I want. Ultimately, I said no. There's too much value in Acuna. A regress projection for him, even accounting for the irritation in the meniscus, still had him more than $10 valuable than the next best player. Which, if you look at the average auction values in the NFBC, that tracks. His average auction value, Acuna's average auction value is 62. Strider's is 45. He's not even the number 2. But now I think if you account for dates and kind of shrink that up a little bit, it comes closer. We saw Strider consistently go high 40s in auctions. And I know you did an auction on Friday.
Yep.
How much you go for, like 45, 48 in yours?
I think Strider was 44 and Acuna was like 56, something like that.
Again, so that holds, and I just couldn't pass up that difference. And knowing the consequence of that. And I'll pull up my board and we can start talking about that here. Yes, squint. I know. But guess what? I tweeted out the link a couple of times on my timeline, and I also have an article up on RotoWire where you can see the full draft board too. Sorry guys, no names on it there. I do respect that still. I don't want to make a big political statement on that. I'm just saying there's no names to it there, but I'm team 1, so you can see. So yeah, all along I mapped it out, and the most likely scenario was going hitter. If Kevin Gausman gets to me, I had talked myself into Kevin Gausman at 30. Tariq Skubal, I wasn't quite there, but it didn't matter. He was gone. The guy that came closest to making it to us was Tyler Glasnow. He made it to pick 29 before going. Still not good enough. I would have had to push up Yoshi Yamamoto or someone else a little lower. Were you
taking Glasnow if he got to 30?
Yes, I think I would have. I think it.
But it was not once the guy said next to you said the name, you were like, oh, man, I can't believe it.
No, it was not a snap call in Glasnow, but I think I would have, because it's easier to build when you get a pitcher on that 2-3 turn instead of having to wait. Because guess what? The next tier of pitchers also goes higher. The tier after that also goes higher.
Yep. So you went at 30-31, you went for Francisco Lindor. So a 30-30 to go with Acuna as a pretty darn good speed power start. And then Pete Alonso. So you've got a lot of home runs. You have a lot of stolen bases. That is a heck of an offensive start through 3 rounds.
It is. And that's the consequence to everybody pushing down, pushing up the starters is I had choices. I didn't just have a good hitter. I had choices. I could have taken Gunnar Henderson. I could have taken Michael Harris. Some people like CJ Abrams at that turn. Our friend Siege took CJ Abrams at the turn with having the 1 pick there. Marcus Semien, who I like, is there. Vlad Guerrero, some people like there. He went way later than that. Point being is, there were not just good hitters, but options of good hitters to take.
You mentioned Siege. I gotta say, seeing Siege and our friend Draft Cheat hanging out in the back of the draft room
world
together
peace,
was just amazing. So, anybody that knows the history between those guys, it was fun. I stood back with them and watched the draft for a while, and it was just the three of us talking, and it was quite surreal.
Well, and I was envious because they did something fun. We were watching a main, and so like Siege would nominate a player, Draft Cheat would say, okay, pick 69. And then Siege would have to choose over and under, and on. They just alternate, like your turn to nominate the player, and all that. And it's just seeing them pass 20s back and forth was pretty funny.
Yeah, I think they ended up even going back and forth, but it was fun to watch. But so you went Lindor, Alonso. Sounds like at that point you were going hitter. You had a lot of options there, but you've got 3 hitters at this point, and you've got 28 picks until it comes back to you at the 4-5 turn. Mm-hmm. Are you thinking I need to get 2 starters and a closer and a starter? Were you thinking about? I know what you did. You got 4 out of 5 hitters, but what was your thought as the names and all the yellow stickers came up in the 4th round? I think it was like 9 out of 10 picks were yellow coming all the way back to you.
So the plan was to go closer starter because closers are getting pushed up. And, when you lose Devin Williams, when you lose Duran for a month and you have Romano for an undetermined amount of time out, guess what? It makes it a lot harder there. So and plus there's a couple that stabilize that I really wanted a piece of there. So I really wanted Evan Phillips, or my pivot would have been Andres Munoz. I got Phillips. I was kind of quietly happy about that. It masked the pain of missing out on Zach Eflin by 1 pick, or Bobby Miller, for crying out loud, or Max Fried, or Grayson Rodriguez going at 4.6 back, when earlier this year you could get him in the 6th round in the 15-teamer. It's tough. It's tough out there on the streets. So I went with the way there. So I took the closer. I could have gone with one of 3 starting pitchers at 5-1. Tim Schuler and I could have. We could have.
Did you consider Phillips and Munoz?
I did. That would have been
a fascinating little turn there.
It would have been fun. It would have created havoc for everyone else, and maybe that's still a pretty decent play. I could have gone Cole Reagans. I could have gone Joe Ryan. I could have gone Blake Snell. I didn't. Manny Machado was hovering like an angel. And I just think he's a better player than that. This is a guy we were getting in the 2nd round last year. I know he's coming off a bad year. I get all of that.
Boy, he had a rocket in the 9th inning of that 2nd game too.
Yeah. But I got him right at that 5-6 at the 4-5 turn. His ADP in the main event is 59. So it's no bar. It's compared to ADP, it's no bargain. I just think he's a good player at a good price, and it gives me just a killer offense start, and at a position, 3rd base, where there are some later targets, but not a ton that I love. So a position that's sneakily a little harder to fill unless you want to compromise one category. Like Max Muncy gets you power, but he can kill your average. Brian Hayes maybe has that nice power thing is for real, and there's a breakout there. Maybe that's a good pivot, but let's face it, his career has like 15 homers so far. So I was kind of happy I've got that covered now.
So you come back around again, you got another 28 long picks. I assume you're just hoping no starters go. Everybody takes other stickers, but obviously starters went, Reagans went, Joe Ryan went, Blake Snell, Shane Bieber went. Now, Shane Bieber was moving up this weekend. That's a 5-6 turn, guys. A lot of positive comments about Bieber that, coming out. And then we heard people talking about Luzardo went, Chris Sale, Musgrove, Bailey Ober, Cease. They just kept coming off. Are you at that point where you're like, I don't have a closer through or a starter through 5? Like, I have to take 2 no matter what.
Oh, pretty much. Yeah. And Bailey Ober going to team 4. I won't say who it is, but it was an NFBC Hall of Famer, who is very good at drafting and like very nice human.
One of the nicest dudes too.
Yeah. Very nice human. Got to spend a lot of time talking with him, at the party after I misidentified him in the first place, which is embarrassing, but, nonetheless, and I wasn't even drunk. That was the sad part. But I went with my 2 best starters available, and I knew I was going to go volume and starters after that, and thus I did. I went Justin Steele and I'll just go through the early ones that I did here all at one fell swoop because I think it reads better as that. I went Justin Steele at 6.15, pick 90, Tanner Bybee at 91, If you've listened to any of our podcasts, you know I've been on Bybee a lot. I know there's some smart people that aren't, and I hope they're wrong, but despite being good human beings. Chris Bassett, who is the AL's version of Sonny Gray, I got it, pick 120. I took a brief intermission from my yellow sticker run and took Lane Thomas after that. We'll talk about him in a sec. But then Nate Eovaldi, I needed just innings. I figure that's one thing I know he's good for there. To close out the first 10 rounds, I took another starter, Christopher Sanchez, at pick 13. And then pick 11. We share a common guy. I took a chance on Jordan Romano at pick 11.1. That made 7 pitchers out of 13 rounds.
Yeah, it's funny how you started hitter, but then suddenly you've got what is that? 6 pitchers in 11, and like you said, 7 in 13. So you adjusted that pretty quick. It's interesting. You're just going back to your 6-7, the Steele Bybee. It's really interesting because that is like literally the last 2 guys of that tier. Like it actually kind of worked out okay because you look at the 7th round and there was 1 pitcher taking the rest of the 7th round. Like you really got the last pitcher. 2 guys.
Yeah,
one pitcher at all.
No. 7th round, Robert Suarez went at pick 96, and then Hunter Brown at the end.
Oh, I must not have scroll all the way over. Sorry. But 1 starter, and then coming back, there was you really got the last couple of guys. Oh, I see Suarez now. You've got the last couple of guys in that tier pretty nicely. It worked. I know it was quick, but it worked out pretty well. Yeah,
I was white knuckling a little bit there, but and then. I would have, and there are some others like Michael King went 2 before me at the end of the 8th round. I could have stolen a win there. We talked about how I did so in the main here later on at pick 22/23. And it's a good discussion. What is a win worth? What is 1 win worth? And for me, it's round 22. Sure. I'll probably cut Daniel Hudson. I didn't this week, obviously, but next week. I probably will.
Don't cut him before you can use him, please.
Right, exactly. I want to thank him and move on, but I will start him this week. It'll be fine. And hopefully it doesn't crush me against St. Louis, but we'll see about that.
Maybe he'll sneak in another win. That'd be really nice.
Yeah, it'd be slick. And the thing is, you know who my closer is? My closer is Evan Phillips. I think Hudson is probably the guy behind the guy, so it's not the worst thing if I keep him for a while either.
Agreed there. So you talked about your pitching in that range. You also you mentioned Lane Thomas in the 9th, and then after that run of pitchers, you ended up with Bo Naylor as your first catcher, Taylor Ward, Sal Frelick, and Giancarlo Stanton in the outfield, and Jonathan India and Jordan Westberg in the infield, kind of rounding out your offense. You're the Reds guy here, Jeff. Jonathan India, what do you expect here? Hoping for a bounce back season.
Yeah, I just hoping for health. I think when healthy, he's solid enough of a player. And he's just going to get loads of playing time early on. India is going to play probably just second base with Matt McLain out. We don't know how long Matt McLain's going to be out. So we'll watch.
Is it weird we haven't got any more news on that?
He's the hitter equivalent of Yuri Perez. We're waiting. It was like
I'm going for a second opinion, and then we just didn't hear anything else about it since.
Yeah. And it breaks my heart because I know he's going for a second opinion. McLain is when it's going for a second opinion and long silence. To me,
I assume he already got that second opinion.
I'm just assuming the worst.
Right. Jonathan India quietly was 17-14 last year. I would have lost that bet. I would have had the under on both those numbers. Yeah. Even though he only hit 244, and I think we considered a down year for him. 119 games, he went 17-14. That's pretty darn good right there in the speed power categories at least.
Yep. And he might and Jonathan India might qualify at multiple positions this year too. Currently only second base, but he could pick up outfield eligibility, could pick out a third. There's lots of different ways this could play out. So, keep in mind, Jonathan India's original position in the minors was third base. He was drafted as a third baseman.
As we get to some more hitters here, Stanton at the start of the 17th obviously looked really good in spring training the week before the main event, had that 3 home run game, was getting pushed up. I saw him getting pushed up in 12ers and 15 teamers. That's somewhere in the 17th round. Then I think it's a batting average, tank. But if he stays healthy, the home runs will absolutely be there.
Yeah, they will. And I think that he's slimmed down now. Are we buying best shape of life? Maybe. I think the cost is low enough that
I was gonna say 17th round. If he gets hurt long term, it's just a drop, and it's not really that big a deal.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also could be 30 homers from the 17th spot, and you can never have enough
sure.
homers in the main event.
Absolutely. Dropping down a little bit, you took your second catcher, Ryan Jeffers. I really like that 19th round. I think that is one of my, weird to say it from a second catcher, 19th round. One of my favorite picks, though. I love rounding out the catcher there. I like that range of Jeffers and Langoliers and Luis Campusano. Although, if you're in the wrong league, Luis Campusano can go really, really early, if you know what I mean. Rogue drafter back in effect this year. It is true. He is back and better than ever. But yeah, I love Jeffers. And then you went some more pitching depth there. You got a lot of yellow stickers down at the bottom of the board here. Between round 20 and 30, you took 7 pitchers. Obviously, you're getting some pitching depth because you started hitters early. And these pitchers you really like. You took starting wise, you took Tanner Houck, Ryan Nelson, Miles Michaelis, Keaton Wynn, the Nard Dog, Andrew Nardi, and Will Warner. You mentioned you dropped. Any of those pitchers that were really targets for you in that range? What'd you do with these final picks here?
Houck was a target. We talked about him on the drive up.
Yep.
That was definitely something we were looking for. Ryan Nelson is a pitcher list special. And then he had like 9 strikeouts in a spring training game. So that was nice and reaffirming. So that's another one I like.
Funny enough, Paul Sporer was just talking in the chat about, against Ellie De La Cruz in the second round of ADP. Just a note, Ellie De La Cruz, Jeff, in your main event went 10th overall.
Yeah. If you were going to jump the crowd and pick him at 20, you already missed because he went 10th.
I just saw that as I was looking up. A guy took Ellie 10th. And I mean, I guess the theory was you're worried about him going at the turn or in the start of the second round. So you got to get him. But I think that's got to be his min price right there.
Yeah, it is. He also took Royce Lewis at 310, and he took Grayson at 4.6. So, and this is a guy that is a veteran NFBC player. It's the main event. Shoot your shot. I know, and I think he was in the Rogue Drafter League today because he was emailing me some of the astounding things that were going on in that draft too, and you were texting him to me there, so it's kind of funny.
I was. A couple of late hitters for you. Mason Wynn, who we talked about in the a little bit too. Just kind of I give some credit here. Rob Silver tweeted it earlier, so I can say it now. But Rob liked him, and we talked about him a bunch. Just one of those guys that like his glove and his defense just keeps him in the lineup. And there's a lot to be said for that in the 20s round. Like at bats, playing time. A long leash because your defense is so good. That matters at this point in the draft. You need guys that are in the lineup and playing.
Absolutely. And it also allowed for the formation of a little wordplay joke too. So that's always good too, because between Daniel Hudson, Mason Wynn, and Keaton Wynn later on, I got a win-win-win situation. So that was good.
Someone asked about.
I like how you just moved right on there.
I already heard the win-win-win joke too many times. Somebody asked in the chat about if the Rogue drafter took a lot of Padres and Dodgers. The answer to that is yes and more yes.
Yes.
Last guy I want to ask you about, Jeff, before we flip onto my team real quick. Colton Cowser, you took in the 26th round. One of those that really works because he made the team today, so he would. I think he would have been 5, 6, 7 rounds earlier if that news was out. We weren't sure he was going to make the team. He made the team. That pick looks pretty darn good 48 hours later.
I figured he would have, though. Once they cut Jackson Holliday. They cut. There was an outfielder they sent down that it was of ilk. That it was just like, okay, he's going to make the team. Everything pointed to him making the team. So yeah, and that was a luxury pick, because I probably didn't need another outfielder. I already had 6. But man, I just like the talent. And
in those rounds, man, getting talent, I think you just figured out. I think Kyle Stowers is probably the guy that got sent down.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the guy that got sent down. But yeah, want a guy, get a guy. Peter Shanky says that all the time in our Omiki draft. So yeah. And the thing is, you don't have to have perfect balance coming out of the draft. You're going to be dropping a bunch of these guys anyhow. If you see a talented player, grab them.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
If Colton Cowser works out, the initial glut of outfielders would be a very good thing. I don't think you're going to stress too much about that at that point.
Right. And I might have Sal Frelick qualify at third base in short order anyhow, which gives me a little bit more flexibility too.
Yeah. It's a fun team. The starting 3 hitters you just piece together those hitters really well, because if I do quick math, 40, 30, 40, we've got 110 home runs. We've got, let's call it 55 and 25 stolen bases. You got 80 stolen bases right there. That's a really the speed power combo between those three guys, and obviously Acuna's average, covers for Alonso if he has a rough start betting average wise. Pretty darn good 5 category offense. So not even took 3 hitters, but 3 hitters that piece together very nicely.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of the thought there. Weakness on this team is strikeouts. I don't have a pure ace. I've collection of 2s, and 2s and 3s. So that's going to be. I'm going to need to hopefully identify some guys with some upward mobility, and B, be active when trying to find early starting pitchers on the market when they emerge.
And I would say C, I think you kind of meant it in A. Like a couple of your lesser pitchers breaking out would be really someone like Tanner Houck becoming a mainstay in that rotation, striking out a bunch of guys. Someone like Ryan Nelson, who had 9 strikeouts in his last spring training game. Right. I know that Nick Pollock over at Pitcher List really likes Ryan Nelson. He's talked about him on his recent podcast. If Nick Pollock is talking about your pitcher in a positive light, one of those people that I do take that pretty seriously.
Absolutely. We've talked enough about me. Let's talk about you.
Let's do that, but let's first hit a note from our sponsor at Vivid Seats real quick. Finally, baseball is back. I think we can all agree on that one. This MLB season, knock it out of the park with Vivid Seats and score great tickets to the biggest games of the year. Every fastball, every home run, every eye-popping play of your favorite team live and in person. Plus, with Vivid Seats Rewards, you earn rewards with every single purchase. Just buy 10 tickets, then cash in your credit towards your free 11th ticket. Talk about an easy win, and here's a pro reward tip. When you're buying tickets for the whole group, split the bill and make progress towards your free 11th ticket even faster. From behind the dugout to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all of your 24 games that matter to you. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats, experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for all terms and conditions. So, Jeff, I was picking out of the, let's see if I can, I'll share mine here. You got to squint a little bit on mine also. Hopefully people can see that a little bit, but I was picking 11th spot here. I did not get the benefit of, the KDS fortune that you got. But speaking of the 11th spot, I was a spot that I liked. I think the Ohtani news made it a little more complicated than I initially thought. I was thinking that just lock in Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, and call it a day. And I like those guys as much as I like the guys in the 5, 6, 7, 8 spots in there. So, I do have Julio and Witt ahead of those guys. So I had the top 4 picks higher, but then I kind of moved towards the back a little bit because I really saw a drop off at about pick 20 or 21. So I wanted 2 of those guys that I wasn't going to get top guys. So 11, I started, I wasn't sure if I was going to go Soto or Turner. I thought it was going to be my choice, but once the Ohtani news broke, I did not have that choice. I went Trey Turner. I struggle with stolen bases normally. So getting a guy that steals some bases, I think is a really good start for me. And I knew that I really wanted Austin Riley in the second round. I hope when he got there, he did get there. So knowing that I was going to take a pure power with a good average guy like Riley, I think the stolen bases kind of made sense the first round. So taking Trey Turner kind of worked out, kind of having a pretty good idea what I was going to do in the second round.
Yeah. That's the thing is you spend all this time talking about the player pool. Yep. You really kind of have to map out the scenarios, at least for the first 3, 4, 5 rounds, and have kind of like a, and not just say, okay, this is the best value. This is the best value. It's kind of, you need to have a choose your own adventure. You need to have if A, then B, if B, then C, and kind of map that out a certain way. Yeah,
it was. And I thought getting, I couldn't take Soto anyway, but that was my initial thought was like Soto, Riley would be a really fun start, but man, starting with no steals and without a pitcher kind of scared me a little bit because I just you're making it so you have multiple areas you have to answer pretty quickly. Yeah.
Now, was there any other target that you would have preferred to Riley? Like Bryce Harper made it 1 pick before you, I see.
If someone had taken like Dela Cruz before that and I had Harper or Riley, I think I would have gone Harper, but I was pretty happy with both of them. Once Wheeler and Burns went at the 2-1 and 2-2, I knew I was going hitter. I wasn't going to take Glasnow, Castillo, or Pablo Lopez or Kirby. As much as I like those guys, I was not going to take them ahead of Harper, Ramirez, or Austin Riley.
Okay. What if, on the other hand, I'm trying to think if instead of like. I'm trying to think if there's not really. I guess if like someone takes Riley instead of Jose Ramirez, do you take Jose Ramirez? Is that enough power for you?
It would have been a tough call starting with Turner. I think I would have gone with more pop.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because after you is Ellie, it's 3 pitchers, Lindor, Albies. Gunnar, Michael Harris, Devers. I guess Devers is your pick there.
Devers,
or your third round guy, Pete Alonso.
I love Devers. Eric Albright, who picked first, is I guess I'm naming names, but he wouldn't mind. Really, really good player. He got Devers at 30 and just kind of made myself hurt because that's a really good value there. So coming back around, I was pretty sure I was going to go with a third hitter unless Edwin Diaz somehow got there. He did not. He went way earlier in the third round. But I was thinking Bo Bichette or Corey Seager or maybe even O'Neal Cruz. But once I took Turner, that was kind of weird with shortstop. So I was hoping someone else got there. I was hoping that Alonso, Vlad Guerrero, Luis Robert, or Bo Bichette would get there. All four got there, which was really... And I even said out loud in the room, I was like, I did not anticipate making the Alonso versus Vlad Guerrero call. I was hoping one would get there. I took Alonso at 41. I thought he pieced together really well here, knowing that I might need a little batting average here at some point. But man, Alonso at 41. I had the max on him for a while. He went up to the max on him is now 42. I think we saw it across a bunch of the leagues. The high power no steals guy definitely were the ones that fell as pitchers moved up.
Yeah. And he pairs well with you, though, because you already had Turner. So that works out.
Yeah, it did work well. I'm coming around in the fourth. I knew I was going to take a pitcher. I love Max Fried and Bobby Miller. It was going to be one of those two guys. I felt pretty sure at least one of them would be there. I thought maybe there's a chance Fried go a little bit earlier, but I went Fried. I like him a little bit more than Miller. I love both those guys, but I was pretty much locked in. I don't really write like picks ahead of time down on my sheet, but I had put SP next to the fourth one just to sometimes I tend to get lost in the moment and forget. I know I needed one there, but that was pretty much a slam dunk pitch around for me.
Yeah, it really was. And, if I had that choice at my spot, I probably would take it.
So in the fifth round, I was pretty sure I was going to go with another pitcher, but Jazz Chisholm got all the way back to me at pick 71. His ADP is definitely higher than that. His ADP is 59 in the 34 main events. Latest pick on him is 73. So I was really near the end with that. I had the big power bats with Riley and Alonso, steals with Turner, but he only stole 30 last year. I thought Jazz fit this team really well with the thought that with the second I did it, I kind of shifted everything knowing that I was going to need two batting average guys later on. So I kind of just always kept that in the back of my mind with Jazz and Alonso. I knew I was going to need batting average later, but I just liked the power speed combo all those guys gave me. Very surprising that I got Alonso and Jazz where I did. Every once in a while, stuff slips to you. Sometimes that doesn't work well, but these guys, both guys I was interested in anyway. So not super targets for me, but guys that when they got to that spot, I just thought it was too good to pass up.
Yeah. Leagues where our friend Vlad Sedler does not exist. That definitely for the Jazz pick for sure. He would have taken Jazz in the third round. He got sniped on Jazz in the third round in one of his leagues. And he won't mind us saying it because he wrote it in his article that Jazz is his guy this year. And I think he just finished his last main today too. So if I'm not mistaken,
he did. He's probably in like round 25 of it right now. So I think we're safe on the Jazz call.
He's not available still at this point in time.
So you and I were both in the spot where we had 4 hitters after 5 rounds. I usually want 2 pitchers, but I got to the point where I was like, all right, it's time to take pitchers. I took 3 in a row, kind of what you did. Cole Reagan's like another guy, not really a super target for me, but at pick 80, I could not pass that up. ADP is around 70, so not way late, but going with only one pitcher early. And Fried is not a massive strikeout rate guy. Wanted some strikeouts, got Reagan's there. Then I got Shane Bieber in the 7th round. I probably was going to take Bailey Ober. He went the pick before me. This is the one time I really, really got sniped on a pick, the one before me. And then the toughest call of the draft for me in the 8th round, had no closers. All the closers were gone. Even Yohan Duran was gone. Craig Kimbrell was gone. Tanner Scott was gone, who you and I talked about. I don't necessarily love. Albert Alzolay was gone by then too. Like I was going to consider him there. I don't even love the situation. The Cubs haven't fully named him. I don't. Fairbanks was obviously gone. Sewald was long gone. Helsley was gone. Clay Holmes was gone. I went Jordan Romano in the 8th round, knowing that it's a super risky pick. He's not fully healthy yet. But no, someone that would have gone 2 rounds earlier if he was healthy, but obviously you got him 2 rounds later. So maybe I jumped the gun there, but with whatever that is, 20 picks in between me and that spot, I couldn't risk it. Even Kenley Jansen went before my next pick, who I didn't really want either. I just kind of figured I had to get someone. That was the hardest pick for me. I didn't want to do it kind of felt like I had no choice at that point, which is never a good feeling.
With the exception of Robert Suarez, your league uniformly was ahead of ours in terms of taking closers, it looked like.
Yeah.
And it really started with 3.1 Edwin Diaz. I mean, that starts the ball rolling. Hader 3.3.
That same team took Doval, so they had Diaz and
doubled
Doval.
up.
It really started to push. It really started to push everybody because if a different team takes you those guys like this, one less team that needs a closer right away. With two of them, man, there's an extra team that need it.
Yep. I see that one of our listeners, PJ322, is in the same OC with you together.
Well, that'd be my fourth draft in 5 days. So you're probably getting me the exact right time.
Yeah.
But I hate to tell him our OC is actually on Tuesday.
All right, Dwight Schrute. All right.
So I hope he either is seeing the right league, or maybe I'm
maybe you're seeing the right league, pal.
I could be seeing the complete wrong league. I think it's on Tuesday though.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see.
We will see there. So yeah, as we're going along here, obviously I don't need to hit every single pick, but I went in. I need an outfielder. I took George Springer in the 10th or in the 9th. I figured I just need to get some bats at that point because I was now at 4-4 with hitters and pitchers. And then one of the tougher picks too. I really like the catchers in the 10th, 11th round. They were all available, kind of in that range. They all were gone by the time I picked again. So I was kind of glad I did it. But I took Francisco Alvarez in the 10th. I know not your favorite pick there. I think you like probably Murphy and Wilson Contreras more. But again,
I thought you liked Murphy more, to be honest.
I love Murphy. I love Murphy and Alvarez.
He was a target in our targets and fades discussion. He was a target. Scott.
If he got back around the 11th, I would have taken taken him also. I do like both. Again, leaning into some high powered, low batting average. Knowing what was still available and what was slipping, I took the risk and figured I could hopefully get 2 batting average backs.
Yep. Again, that's what you were saying earlier, that you already had 2 batting average risks and to get the third there. It's that. But then again, super power, and he could. And the thing is, he may not be a bad power guy. I mean, a bad batting average guy. If he just hits 250, that's probably a win for you.
So I think so too, and I think that the power is obviously very real. I'm hoping another year of seasoning. The next 4 picks were probably my most important picks. 12, 13, 14 were all ones that I held my breath on. I took in the 11th. I took Hunter Green, who I know you have some concerns on, even for our Reds. But again, I just wanted to I was trying to get some strikeouts. I needed a 4th starter. He was pretty far past his ADP in the 11th round. I thought he was the best starter left. You see the stars that went after that: Mitch Keller, Aaron Savali, Kyle Harrison went right after that. Christopher Sanchez, who I do like. I just like the upside on Green. One of the ones that I think it's a risk, but I thought I could take it. But I admit that one's a little sketchy for me there.
So I've been trying to identify, the K percentage minus walk percentage guys that are over 20%. And it's kind of an arbitrary to set it at 20%, but guess what? Hunter Green's high on that list.
He is.
The spot, it's mostly because he just whiffs so many guys. He does walk 9.5%. He did walk 9.5% last year, but he also struck out 30.5% last year. My issue with Hunter Green is second, third time through the order. And that's something that I'm hoping with maturity, with development, becomes less of an issue. But right now, I am just a little concerned that he might be a guy that, still may not have that next level of development.
Yeah. Did get him at 161. His ADP is 137. So a good 24 picks after. I probably wouldn't have taken him in the 9th round, but I thought the 11th worked really nicely.
Yeah. I think it's worth the chance there.
Real quick as we're going through, we don't have to hit everything, but the keys for me coming up were I obviously had a ton of power, some speed. I needed batting average. There were a handful of first basemen that I liked, and I really wanted to get one of them coming up. But the one I love Josh Naylor, but I actually went Yandy Diaz. Naylor went the next pick. I went Yandy Diaz as kind of the fit for this batting average mix. And then I held my breath for 20 picks because I did not go Mason Miller in the 12th. Even though I didn't have a closer with Romano, maybe not ready. I waited on Mason Miller, got to me the 13th. That was probably the most important spot there. If he goes before me there, I'm pretty much dead at closer. I might be anyway with Mason Miller. Who knows if that works out? But I was pretty much dead at closer if I didn't get Mason Miller.
Yeah. And I like him too. I didn't think I'd like him, earlier this draft season, but the arc, his trajectory has gone well. I still don't know if it's going to work. And I still don't know if like they still long term still want to use him as a starter at some point in time. They're just trying to stretch him out this year, or try to get him through a season without getting hurt. But yeah, that could be big for you there.
Yeah, that one was fortunate. And then I took someone who I don't normally take, but again, I'm building a team and trying to make this fit. I took Luis Arraez in the 14th round, someone I probably wouldn't take at ADP, but we're talking with Yandy, Mason Miller, and Arraez and Hunter Green. All four of those guys were 20 plus picks past ADP. So it was like kind of this range where I needed a couple of them. A couple of them, maybe were a little bit luxury picks, but I like all four a lot where I got them. Whereas, maybe if I take them 2 rounds early, I don't as much, but they all really fit my team really well.
Yeah, it really does, and that's so important. Is team construction a little bit there. I absolutely think that's super important. Clark Olson loves your Hunter Green pick.
Clark Olson knows what he's talking about, so that makes me feel good.
Smart fantasy player.
Yeah.
Once again, Jen said did it again. So there you
go. So flipping through here, I took a couple outfitters. Taylor Ward was a target for me. I think kind of a last year's bounce back. He got injured last year right as he was getting hot. So I do like that. Parker Meadows needed some steals. I know James Anderson is high on him, so that always makes me feel pretty good about that. And then the interesting pick in 18th round, I was kind of waiting. I almost took him in the 16th, almost took him in the 17th. And then the 18th, I took Eloy Jimenez. I don't love locking up utility. We've talked about that a bunch, but I'd pick whatever that is in the 18th round. I was pretty good with that. I mean, he could bounce back. That's 35 picks past the ADP. So I waited a couple rounds, I didn't need to fill my utility spot, obviously. But once it got to that point, felt pretty good about that. I mean, that's someone that could really, I think he was a 5th round pick last year, something there, 5th, 6th round pick. Maybe he gets hurt right away. Maybe he's not that good, but the offense is obviously bad. But 18th round Eloy, I was a pretty good fan of too.
Yeah, the thing about Eloy too is he's a sneaky batting average helper guy. Yeah. And when you're looking for that there, I think that's pretty important there. Because you did take some risks with batting average, and it's interesting. You have you've got Arraez and you've got Alonso, you've got a couple other, Jazz, but you also have a lot of other good ones. A lot of good. Eloy's a good one. Yandy Diaz is a perfect counterweight there. I like that there. Langoliers Langoliers and Siri are batting average risks also. So I went very a bunch of risks and a bunch of really high guys rather than going with a bunch of batting average base guys. So it'll be interesting how it works out, because if Arraez or Yandy get hurt, it gets pretty tough pretty quick, because I could be if those guys or don't hit well, that's obviously a real thing too. So obviously some of my low guys could hit well. But if those guys don't hit well or get hurt, it'll become pretty tough to compete batting average pretty quick, I'm afraid. But if those guys do what they usually do or should do, Arraez net to 350, obviously. It hits 310. That'd be fine. I need a second base by that point too. And Edouard Julien, who I really, really like, went the pick before, but I think I had to go the batting average spot there. So it's a team that pieces together really well until someone gets hurt, and then it could be complicated with batting average. It's batting average and saves are probably the 2 spots where I am kind of hanging by a thread, which you aren't always in a couple spots in a 15-teamer. Yeah, I like that you added Kopech late as a nice dart throw. You might use Aroldis Chapman for a month, creepy as he is, but you have him.
Never like to say Aroldis out loud at the draft. It's always better to draft him online, because it feels bad to say his name out loud. But yeah, I mean, Bednar's back in spring games, but I'm going to give me a couple weeks of seeing him pitching full ramped up with that lap before I drop Chapman. And I think that if anything happened to Bednar early on, Chapman would be pretty darn good in that role.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I can see it. Even the player I hate, Jose Siri, could be 2020. He's just one of those guys. Just don't watch him play.
Oh my God, he strikes out 30.
So many bad at bats.
His strikeout rate is absurd.
Yes. And he's all flashy and look at me and how awesome I am. And he's got an OBP of 280. And I'm like, dude, real life, you're not that great of a player.
Plays
fantasy
awesome.
Wise though. He can
plays awesome defense though.
Yeah, that's true. Real life, not a good hitter. How about that?
He's a terrible hitter. Real life. He has 267 OBP last year, which is
I understand. I didn't even go low enough to try to address his real life value there. But then again, he can flat out catch it. And with all the Rays outfield injuries, he is going to play every day.
Paul Sporer, I am sharing none of your posts about Aroldis Chapman, just so we're clear. No, none of those. Yeah, it was a really fun draft. It was a fun room. The guys next to me, the guy to my right, Paul Spiteri, had just gone to Mets fantasy camp this offseason, was telling me all kinds of stories of hanging out with like Howard Johnson and a bunch of other Mets and Wally. He said he's having drinks every night with Howard Johnson and Wally Backman. There's some fun stories. He was really nice. All the guys around me were fun. Rusty Clark was to my left. I'd seen his name in leagues like 9,000 times. Never sat next to him. It's one of the underrated things about doing these drafts is just how fun it is to, I think you obviously meet a lot of people, but when you sit next to someone for 3 hours, and I tend to, especially if I was the 11th pick, so it's a long time between picks. I tend to chat with the people around me if they're willing and open to chat with me. So it was fun kind of getting to know the guys around me. I think the guy next to 2 over was Joe Green. I think was his name. He was in my league with the Rogue Drafter in 2019. So we had some good laughs and chats about that. So it was a really fun league. It's talking baseball with the people around you is really a fun time.
Yeah. By the way, I buried a lead in my draft coverage. I was with Chris freaking Liss. It was awesome. Now he wasn't there. Was the problem. So that's why.
By the way, I wish he was there. I might have left my table a few times just to come over and watch you guys. You guys give each other.
That would have been so much fun. I mean, we had Dave McDonald in the league. I mean, he's obviously a lot of people know him in our space. He's a good player with his buddy Tony, and they had a good team. I thought at Team 14. We had a lot of fun. Experienced drafters. But man, if Liz were there in person, that would have just been amazing.
Funny. Joe in the chat was one of the guys that was around me. He mentioned it was the fast and loose corner. Our draft moderator calls the fast and loose corner because we were kind of just joking around a bunch during the draft and having some fun. And we were having a really good time. So it was fun.
Yeah, List was Team 13, by the way, in ours. If you want to look that out, he won't mind. He's written about his team, so it's all out there.
Yes, yeah. So we had some commonality at the end of the draft. I took Hannah Houck and Mason Wynn too. I think that maybe the benefit of us driving up together. We got a little commonality there. And I think we have Pete Alonso, but we think we only have 3 guys the same, which is probably good. Because I think you and I had like 4 of the 5 same picks last year, and neither of our teams worked out well in Vegas. So it's maybe good that we aren't sharing similar teams because we had some bad mojo on each other there.
Yeah, we did. But super fun.
Jordan Romano too. So I guess it's 4 guys on the same team.
Yes. That's pretty normal, especially considering we're in different spots, vastly different spots.
Yeah. We only one guy early. I guess Romano was kind of early, but the other ones were, late guys that I think that we discussed a little bit and maybe convince each other on, which is always fun. But really fun drafts. I have a main event tomorrow night and an online championship on Tuesday. So I'm still in draft mode. I think everybody else is kind of in week 1 mode. So there is that. Obviously, important week this week. It's only a 4-game week, 3-game week for some teams. Most importantly, make sure your starters are actually pitching this week. If not, if you can grab a reliever or, throw one of your middle guys or a setup guy in there, this is a good week for, we mentioned Aroldis Chapman. Like I'll probably be starting him this week and seeing how some rotations work out. I don't think the Angels have released theirs. I have 2 Angels, so it depends on where they kind of slot guys in. They only have 3 games, but this is a big strategy week. Obviously, if you play NFBC, remember that all your hitters, you can put them all in on Thursday, but then you can reset your hitters on your Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's important because there's a lot of teams that don't play on Friday this week. The teams that have 3-game series don't play on Friday. There's a lot of 2-game weekends, so make sure that you max out your hitters from this weekend. Last tip I'm giving maybe the rest of the year, though. That's it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that is. I'll just say also, just remember that you get the free look at those Padres, and I don't leave Yamamoto active if you drafted him. Don't forget to activate Daniel Hudson if you drafted him or picked him up.
Jeff, I assume you are a start Michael King person. I know he gave 2 or 3 runs, but got to win 5 strikeouts, and will likely get another start. I think you've got to use King with that stat line.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. With Yamamoto, you sit. Joe Musgrove also is a sit with that start. He was he only
Darvish is kind of borderline. It's probably starting him because you're getting another one.
Starting him. Glasnow's an easy start. Obviously the hitters. The interesting hitter is Jake Cronenworth, who had 4 RBIs over those first 2 games. That's a nice little start for him.
Yeah, well, and if you're the rogue drafter, Luis Campusano in the 6th round too. But you're definitely starting him. But if you drafted Campusano, you're starting him. He's definitely a top 2 catcher for you. That's for sure. Last
question. PJ322 in the chat. What about Ha-Sung Kim? He was 0 for 7, but had a stolen base. Jeff, are you starting Ha-Sung Kim this weekend with that stat line?
Yeah, because you're still getting other at-bats. You're still getting a stolen base. 2 games. Everybody has an 0 for 7 stretch at some point. You're getting a stolen base.
If you got no stolen base, I would sit him because you can take him out on.
Yeah, well,
take him out and then put him back in on Friday. But with the stolen base, I'm using him too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But he's still going to play, but it's only the one game because you can sit him just for Thursday and hope he doesn't do well. So a lot of the guys, anybody that did go 0 for without the stolen base, though, I would sit because it's only one other game. You just got to survive that one game. Then you get back, you get everybody back in on Friday. So with the hitters, that makes that pretty easy. But with Kim, a stolen base, 0 for 7, I probably do it because you get so many at bats. I think they take the stolen base.
Yep, I would too.
Cool. Jeff, it was good to see you this weekend. Always a really fun time. One of the highlights of this weekend is seeing you and getting to hang out with you and driving up and back with you. I know we chat every weekend, but it's different. We're in person and hanging out, so it was fun.
Yeah, it certainly was. We had a good time, and love the drives, love just the conversation, watching hoops in the sports book. That was fun.
It was fun to watch a Northwestern overtime tournament game with you. I think it's hard to really plan, and you can't really plan for that. But I got up early on Friday, Jeff, to come watch the game with you. It was a 9:15 start, put you guys in the early slot, but it was really fun. I went and got you coffee. We watched the game. It was great.
Yeah, life was good. Life was good, and thanks for driving as always.
Of course, it was fun. So appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. Obviously, next week we'll do a lot of FAAB stuff. We'll talk about preparing for week 2, a lot of lineup stuff, strategy stuff. We wanted to make sure we talked about the big drafts this weekend. We want to thank Fantrax for the sponsorship of the podcast. You want to follow Jeff on Twitter. He's Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jensted. We'll be back at you next Sunday night talking actual real games. This is going to be a lot of fun. We got a whole season of games left. Really looking forward to it. It's a great time of year. So hope everybody jumps along. We'll be with you all season long. Good luck with all the rest of your drafts and enjoy the start of the season. We're back at you next Sunday night. Take care.